Welcome Amakhosi Network, welcome to the channel. Today we touch on Yusuf Maart and we touch about player updates that we got. And yeah, there's a new striker that is being linked to Kaizer Chiefs. I don't know how true it is, but yeah, it has been linked, but we don't really know these rumors. But before we get into that, please like, comment, and subscribe. So the transfer news still stand as is. Apparently Chiefs is serious about their contract with Luke Batman and Veli Bai. I don't know what's going to come of that, those two signings, so we can't really speak. I want to actually get to a point where I don't talk about it until it's been resolved. The next one is there's a striker from Black Leopards that the Chiefs says they want to sign. Apparently, not last season, but the season before that, he scored about 17 goals in the NFT, and he's a Namibian. I've watched him, I think, when we played against Namibia. I didn't see too much. I'll be lying. Like when we played against Namibia, I didn't really see too much of the hype. But yeah, the link is there. And then in terms of the other players, there hasn't been another link to a striker or anything like that. A part of me feels that Nabi is going to give a report after to Kaizer Jr. when they come back from Netherlands. And when Nabi gives Kaizer Jr. that report, I think in that report, he's either going to say, I am happy, or he's going to say, I definitely need this. Because the reason why I'm speaking like this is because me personally, I don't think Nabi is happy with the squad. And I know from what he's seen, he knows that the squad can't give him what he wants. In terms of the play, the football that he wants. I don't believe the squad can give him that. But what I can say is I feel like he will give a report that assesses the squad, and a report that says, these people won't benefit me, please release them, and a report that says, but I need them to be replaced. And when he gives that report, I think they're going to give him the candidates that Terra, because I believe Terra is still in South Africa, has been working on, and I think Terra is going to give... when Nabi and them get to South Africa, Terra is going to have a conversation with Nabi, Kaizer Jr., and Terra is going to show the options of the players and their videos and their track records and stuff, and Nabi is going to get a chance to enforce. And I think this will happen in the course of next week, because we still have a number of weeks before the season starts. We do have, maybe it's about 3-4 weeks. So I think next week, a lot of that business is going to happen. And it's going to be concluded, but those players will probably start arriving after our Asan Toko match. So that's what I think there. So don't think that the squad you're seeing in Netherlands is the final squad. I think you must accept that players are going to be still released. Largely, I think the ones that are still in South Africa are going to be released. And you must also accept that we may still get new players, right? Because, if I were Nabi, I wouldn't be happy with the preseason that I saw. And then let's go to Yusuf Maart. Yusuf Maart has joined SV Raid in Austria. He plays for Antonio van Wyk. Now, I want to talk about Yusuf Maart, both in the good and the bad. The good is that in big games, Yusuf Maart stepped up. When we played the strong teams, Yusuf Maart always stepped up. Pirates was Yusuf Maart's. Yusuf Maart was Pirates' worst nightmare, I believe, because Yusuf Maart, he really did love scoring against Pirates, and Yusuf Maart stepped up against teams like Sundowns. He stepped up against teams like Stellenbosch. He stepped up against teams like Pirates, right? That is the good thing about Yusuf Maart. And the thing about Yusuf Maart as well is that he was one of the best captains in the sense of what you expect from a captain. When I say what you expect from a captain, I'm like, he was always at a very good fitness level. He worked hard in training. It sounds like he was always one of the first to arrive, one of the first to leave. Or it sounds like that. I'm not saying it's true. He was an example for people around him in terms of the profile you want your captain to have. So I can only praise him for that, because that is the reason why he's overseas right now. It's how he carries himself, how he looks after himself, how he just does things that he does. I can't really talk about his off the field stuff, because there are rumors. Rumors happen in football spaces, but I don't want to talk too much about the off the field. But on the field, what we know is the ones that I think are valid and the ones that are most likely true, and that was that he was a proper captain and he led by example. But here's where I get a bit negative. Yusuf Maart may have been a proper captain, but he was not a good enough captain for Kaizer Chiefs. Because I'll say this, you as a fan should not ever wish for your captain to not be on the field. If you may feel like that for one game or two games in a season where your captain is having a bad game, but if 70 to 80% of the time you don't want to see your captain on the field as fans as a whole, or majority of fans, then there's a very big problem, because that means that you as fans don't have confidence in the captain. But you know what the other thing is? It also means that the people who are playing with him probably have the same feeling. They also don't have confidence in the person. Because I'll tell you a sad story. The sad story about life is when you are playing football, if you don't trust the abilities of the person next to you, that person cannot tell you what to do on the field. That person cannot lead you. If you feel this person is part of the problems, you will not feel like instruction from that person is worth listening to. For example, if your striker has no assists, no goals in the season, if your keeper concedes every game, even if you defend your heart out as a team, but every game this guy, a shot and target is a goal, the players around that player, the people who are playing with that player, won't even want to listen to the instructions of that person if that person is the captain, just because they feel you are the part of the problem and they don't have confidence in you. And that's where I feel Maart fits in. Maart, in terms of work rate, I often say this, and I know a lot of people who watch this channel often know why I continuously say this. Maart is probably one of the hardest working players, was one of the hardest working players in the PSL, if not the hardest, meaning that he could even be number one. Because when he steps on the field, he leaves everything on the field. He works hard. If there's one person you expect to see all over the field, it was Maart. You expect Maart to do so many things just because of what he gives, his energy, his will. He never gives up. Even if he makes 500 mistakes, he will still come back on play and give that same effort. But you know what the problem is? The problem is if his mistakes are also leading him to work hard, then it's a problem. If his mistakes are not helping you progress, it's also the problem. The other problem is that if this player who is your striker plays a very important position, which is the midfield, should be the heart and soul of how your team defends and how your team attacks. Maart was the kind of player who will give you, let's say, 3 or 4 average to bad games. Then he'll give you 2 good games. Then he'll give you another 3 to 5 maybe average games. Then he'll give you 2 good games. And he kept doing that over and over again. Then when you look at the full season of 30 games, you realize that out of the 30 games, Maart was only good in about 8 of those games. Or let's say less than 10 of those games. Maart was only good for less than 10 of those games. But for the other 20, we could not rely on this guy. This guy was part of the problem. And if you feel like that, And if that is the reality, that is not a person who would often you should lead. And when I say average game, I mean like for the position he plays. So that was Matt in a nutshell. Matt had few games good and a lot of games average and a lot of games bad. When you combine the average and bad, they outweigh the good by a lot. And the thing about Matt is that his role is a role where you shouldn't be a high turnover player, meaning that Matt lost the ball a lot. There are moments when we were meant to go forward and Matt lost the ball. There's a lot of crucial moments where Matt just lost the ball and we couldn't control the midfield. But at the same time, he was the hardest working player. So the coach himself found it hard to not put this guy in the game, because he's like, this guy may be bad, but at some point he's gonna do a good thing in certain moments in the game, even if he's bad in the game. But I feel like there may be a moment where there's a one-on-one chance and he may save it. But what I often say about a midfielder is, if you have a good midfielder, your midfielder will oftentimes determine how many goals you score and oftentimes determine how many goals you concede, just based on how they control the tempo of the game, how they find positions in the game. They become your heartbeat, and they're not the be-all and end-all to be like they can save you if you have a bad keeper or bad striker, but they kind of give you control in the midfield. And oftentimes, control in the midfield tends to win a lot of teams' games more than not. And we didn't really have control, which kind of shows you why we finished the position we finished, really, in the season this year. So that's what I wanted to say about Matt. And I often used to say, a point I used to say about Matt that people didn't often see is that Matt's work rate was also playing against him, because he would sometimes push to run and go and press a player, and he would leave a gap in the midfield that gets exposed. So sometimes he would also lose himself in working hard, and he would just look like someone who's just running around. And then the team who you're playing against will have smart midfielders who just occupy the space that he left. And I think you will see the difference in this, what I'm talking about, when you watch Thabo Cele, who, even if he presses, he ensures that he doesn't press and it exposes a gap in the midfield. And I'm not even saying Thabo Cele defensively is the best, but he understands when you press, how you press, which direction you press, when you can turn the ball inside, when you can't, when you can take a risk, in which positions you can't. And we didn't often get that from Matt. But I want to sum it up by saying Matt did what he could based on his abilities. I believe he did well to push for the brand, and we thank him for everything he did, and all the best for him in Austria. I think he's going to be wearing jersey number 6, and it's good. And I said this in the other video to be like, I am happy we lost Matt to an overseas team than Matt ending up back at Sekhukhune, because if he ended up back at Sekhukhune, it wouldn't look good on Kaizer Chiefs, because it will feel like, how can your captain end up back at Sekhukhune? That isn't what I'm in essence saying. So it's good that our captain ends up in Europe. So well done to Matt, and all the best to Matt, and we wish him all the best. But yeah, now it's time for us to see what Chiefs can do. The one thing I will say is, I'm going to talk about it a bit more, but I've said this before. If your youngster is ready to play for the first team, don't delay that youngster. Don't delay him, even if it doesn't mean he's going to get the minutes. As long as he's training with the first team, as long as he gets a chance to be with the first team, that boy must be in the system of the first team. I say this because look at Hlongwane. Hlongwane is playing with the DDC body. When I say a DDC body is, you can tell that he's struggling with the strength of the players he plays with, because he's used to playing with 19-year-olds, 18-year-olds, 17-year-olds, etc., 20-year-olds. Those are the people he's used to. So those people, he couldn't just bump him off the ball because it was his peers. But now I've been watching him a lot. The strength part is struggling. And that's where I say, had Nabi and them brought Hlongwane close and continuously trained with him because the boy is out of high school, so there's no excuse. Continuously trained him with the first team. If the first team goes for strength training, he goes. If the first team does this, he goes. If they kept doing it, I can tell you the Hlongwane we saw today would not be the same, because in terms of strength and physique, he would be at a better standard, because he would already be training with 30-year-olds, 35-year-olds, etc. He would be training with the adults, and he would know what is required of him. Because that's why I feel Hlongwane is a good striker, but that's a part of his game that's going to get exposed a lot. Because if he's forced to be in a position where he has to use his muscle to get past players, he's going to struggle, because he's not there yet in terms of strength training. And it's only this season where they're going to work on him and that. And I fear for this, because I have the same fear for Neo Buhloko. I want Neo Buhloko to start training with the first team, to build his physique and to build his structure for what is to come when he is now old enough. Neo may still be like 17 years old, but I feel like he has the ability to already start training with the first team and understand how it's like to play with the big guys. So by the time he's 18, 19, in terms of physical stature, it's not even going to be questioned, because he will have been training with the right type of player. And I that's just what I want from him. And when I say this, people mustn't think that I'm saying you take these boys and then you keep them on the bench. No, they still play for DDC and they still go and train with the DDC. But they get integrated into the first team already. They must go and integrate into the first team already. Train with the first team. Do muscle training with the first team. They mustn't do it with the youngsters. They must do it with the old guys. Amakhosi.